Good evening. Able to hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, hi, Mala.
Hi.
Ah, the first visitor.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Hi. Hey, hi, Lakshmi. Nice to see you.
Hello.
Nice to see
Very
everybody.
nice to see. Yes.
Purva, I'm going to make you a host.
Yep.
Shall I?
Sure, go ahead.
Mala, can you give me permission to record? We'll have 2 copies then.
Yeah, Purva has to give you permission to record.
Sure.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, hi, hi.
Oh.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
New specs?
No, it's the one in my handbag.
Okay.
That's all.
That's very observant of Lakshmi.
Yeah, which I'm not usually, but
Hi, Alagu.
Hello, can you hear
I
me?
need
Or
to share.
Yeah, we can hear you. Hi, everyone.
Yes.
Hello.
Hi,
The permission.
Alagu. Purva, can you get me?
Yeah, 1 second.
Oh, wow. What a brilliant card. Oh,
This is one of, I would say this is one of the best sum ups of the book.
agree.
according to-
I
Yes.
agree. One of the best
I
cards.
It's a total sum up.
Yeah, you know what? I saw this, I finished the book half an hour ago, and then I looked at this and I said, oh God, he said it all.
yeah.
It's wonderful.
Very nice. Beautiful. And even the author is such a lovely lady, you know. I heard her speak. It's really wonderful. By the way,
Where
can you hear me?
did you, Alagu, where did you hear us speak?
On YouTube,
Oh,
her whole
Okay.
YouTube, she's got a beautiful reading and she read so beautifully.
ah,
You know, it's really interesting to hear her.
I'll hear it later.
By the way, can I be seen or not?
You can
Yes,
be
you can,
seated.
Alagu.
You
Yeah,
can be
okay.
seen. Chandra says she can't hear anyone.
Oh,
That's odd.
that's odd.
Go out and come back then. Aluko, we can see you and we can even see the fan behind you.
Oh, okay. I've got the fan and the AC on.
Okay.
Purva, you'll have to give me permission to record.
I'm trying to figure out how to do that. 1 second. I have to stop sharing to do that, I think. 1 second.
Yeah.
How do I give somebody permission to record?
If you view Suresh, you know, on the
I
participants
think you
list,
give all participants basically.
and
not
you click on
individually.
Suresh
Okay.
and do more, I think it will give permission to record. I think
Yeah.
that's how it works.
Yeah, that
Well,
should.
Yeah.
You should have permission now.
It's starting to record, I think.
No, I don't know. It didn't ask us for permission now. It normally says,
No,
Hmm.
because I was already recording.
Yeah, just on the recording, let's see what happens.
okay.
Oh, it
It's
asked me.
safety.
Go for permission.
Mala's recording.
Yeah, it did ask for permission actually.
Yeah,
when
I
I
am-
logged on. Yeah.
I am recording. But it'll be good
Yeah.
if you record also, because I remember last time I had issues.
A couple of them failed.
Huh?
Yeah. Mala, you're able to record as well. So we have a triple backup, basically.
Yeah. It says it's recording. We'll see.
Huge files. Huh?
Of course.
Whilst we wait, let me just ask a technical question. So you record it and then how do you put it onto the WhatsApp? How do you transfer it?
So I usually put it to my YouTube channel.
Oh.
YouTube permits you, once you register as a member, it permits you to post it and there are no charges. You can post any amount.
Okay.
Already all our earlier meetings are there. Obama meeting, everything is there.
Yeah.
I'll send the links all over again.
Okay.
Last
didn't
3
know.
meetings, I think, or 2
You
meetings.
have your own channel. My God, Suresh, you have
No,
a
I
channel.
don't. Everybody has got a channel. You just have to register. That's all.
Okay.
It's free.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's nothing much
Lord,
to it. Just go to
David,
the register, that's all.
Okay.
Devika, you and me have to become techie.
We
And a lot
will.
of
We will.
I don't know how we'll become like
Alagu,
that.
there's so much to learn in this world, and there's so many new things. The other day, somebody told me I'm buying land in the metaverse. I said, what?
What?
What? It's the exact words I used. What?
We'll leave all that to Suresh.
Yeah.
Or Purva, or Mala, whoever. No, I'm not getting him.
Yeah. I don't know when I'll do that. I'll probably, I don't know if I'll be around.
Don't worry. Don't worry.
But
There's
to
no
learn
end
all
to
this,
learning.
every day is changing. Devika, every day is changing and so much new is coming. I don't know what to do.
No, there's nothing. Don't get hassled. We'll keep learning. The
That's
doors
all.
will keep opening.
Keep learning.
Yeah.
So
Correct.
much to learn.
Devika, it's the operative word being, we'll keep learning what we can.
Yes, what is there? That's good enough.
No, that's not enough. Must also try what you can't.
Oh my God. What
Oh my God.
Right.
Thank
Oh my
you.
God.
Give up before trying.
You won't believe what I learned yesterday. How to transfer my WhatsApp, Zoom, this thing to my email.
No.
But I finally learned how to do that. But I learned how to do it. Mm. I'm
Hey
feeling happy.
Chandra, happy birthday.
Oh,
Oh,
well,
thanks.
Oh, she's here. Okay.
happy birthday.
Thank you.
There's
Thank
Maureen.
you.
Hi, Maureen.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello, Maureen.
Hi, Alagu.
Hello.
Hi, everybody. Mm.
Hi.
How many more are there to join us?
Hello, everyone.
Hi,
Hi,
Latika.
Latika.
Hi,
How are
Latika.
you?
How are you?
Hi, Latika.
Hi.
How are you, Latika?
All well, thank you. How are you?
I'm admiring your flowers every day. Every time you post one for a birthday, I love the adeniums. Beautiful. Mm.
I hope the whole lot come through. It's going to take some more time.
Okay, but they're beautiful. Nice. Is everyone in? How many participants? We're 13 so far.
Yeah.
13
so far.
We wait. It's almost 4.
Yeah. 10 minutes
Yeah.
past 4.
10 minutes.
4:10.
Yeah.
Oh, then we better start.
Because, yeah,
We'll start.
4:07.
Suresh, will you call the house to order?
Yeah. First, I'll make announcements. Then we can start. No problem. Have all logged on again? 14. Yeah. Okay. So, how many of you know exactly what is the Pulitzer Prize for fiction?
What
Yeah,
is actually?
you can all hear me?
No,
It's a prize for fiction.
Good.
fiction.
No,
I know
for
that
fiction.
it's for American novels. I know that much.
Yeah,
That's all
what
I
it
know.
was, an
Surprise.
American award.
Their website
Award
says
by America. Yeah.
clearly for distinguished fiction published in book form during the year by an American author,
Yeah.
Oh,
preferably dealing with American life, $15,000. This
Oh, wow.
is it. It's extremely narrows down the field.
Yes.
I didn't realize this till I wanted to really find out what it's all about.
Yeah, I knew that Pulitzer because they also give for journalism.
It is a journalism award. Fiction is just an add-on, I think.
Yes.
It's
Main
also
award
for music,
isn't it?
Their gold medal is for journalism.
I have not heard for music, but journalism definitely yes. Pulitzer
Not
for
for
journalism.
music, Lakshmi. I don't know.
They give for
Okay.
music.
Yeah.
For music, to my knowledge, but I may
Okay.
be wrong.
They have something like 20 awards.
Oh, okay.
Our book Night Watchman is the 2021 winner.
yeah.
Okay.
And because I'm coming first, so there is no stealing the thunder from the members to follow. I will only say I thoroughly enjoyed the book. the author's writing style, and the storytelling style. The underlying theme is the plight of the American Indians. I found many reviewers with sentiments echoing mine. So I'm going to repeat a few of them.
Oh my God. Why is-
1. High drama, low comedy, ghost stories, mythical visions, family and tribal lore, led to a surprising outbreak of enthusiasm for boxing matches, mixed with political fervor and a terrifying undercurrent of predation and violence against women. Another, words of Thomas. We have survived smallpox, the Winchester repeating rifle, the Hotchkiss gun, and tuberculosis. Thomas thinks.
Yeah.
We have survived the flu epidemic of 1918. We fought in 4 or 5 deadly United States wars, but at last we will be destroyed by a collection of tedious words. It almost happened. Then another. Scenes shift nimbly from weird comedy to unspeakable horror, somehow without diminishing either. One more. Like our characters, we find ourselves laughing at that desperate, high-pitched way people laugh when their hearts are broken. One more. Although the stakes for the residents of Turtle Mountain will be apocalyptic if their tribe is terminated, the novel is more an affectionate sketchbook of the personalities living at Turtle Mountain than a tightly plotted arc that moves from initial desperation to political triumph. Patrice Ipsi Parento, a young woman navigating the spaces between tradition, ambition, exploitation, and responsibility. Patrice sleeps close to a bear and is vastly changed. The story uses magical realism throughout, such as Patrice's experiences with sleeping with a bear and Thomas's viewing of beings in the sky after falling outside the factory. Whenever I read any book, my mind goes into a what-if mode. These are some of my thoughts and questions. Let us see if they are answered during our discussions today. The story uses a magical realism throughout, like Patrick's experience with the bear, Thomas' viewing of beings in the sky, and all that. Have these aided or hindered the mood and flow of the narrative? Second, every so often the government remembered about it. This is what Thomas says. Every so often the government remembered about Indians, and when they did, they always tried to solve Indians, thought Thomas. They solve us by getting rid of us. What do you think would have happened to the members of the Turtle Mountain tribe if the bill had passed and they were terminated? 3. What do you think Patrice's future will look like? Do you think she will go to school, leave her home, stay put in the future? 4. What do you think of Patrice's experiences in the city? Has the author stretched realism too much? These are all questions which came up when I read the book. Let us see how many can get answered. Now, one more thing. By the way, I'm not doing a Steve Jobs sort of a thing. For people who don't know, all Apple's earth-shaking innovations were announced by Steve Jobs at the end of each of their Apple seminars. At the end, as if it's winding up. And then suddenly he says, and one more thing. And he'll come out with earth-shaking, something like iPod, iPhone, things like that. Never heard of things. Our Meet the Authors programs were well received. We have a few more authors, for whatever reason, have not presented their stories then. If it is acceptable to all of you, I'm proposing that we allot some time at the end of our monthly meetings after our book discussions to them. This may mean extending our normally 1 hour meeting by a little. What do you all say? If you are for it, we'll start inviting the people who have not yet presented anything from next month.
You mean one
what do you
person
want?
at each meeting? Do you mean one person at each?
One person,
Okay.
end of the meeting. If there are 2, we'll call them the next month.
I'm for it.
I think it's fine.
That's fine.
I think perfect,
Yeah.
Suresh.
For whatever
Very
reason,
good
some of
idea.
them
I think so. We'd like to listen to everybody.
Check report. Yeah.
So
Suresh,
good.
I think it's a yes from everyone,
Yeah.
at least for
Yeah.
everyone
Yeah.
here.
We'll do it.
Yes.
So we'll do it. Now, is Malvika there? She wanted to leave early.
I'm here.
Okay. You want to go first? Okay, who wants to go first?
Can I go first?
Please.
It makes
Yes.
life easier because then I can listen to all of you all in peace. So for me, actually, I finished the book about half an hour ago. So for me, the book, the reason why I continued reading is because I really felt more than the other story, the story of the young girl growing up and her whatever grow up pains and all that. The way the Native Americans, that is what called Indian Americans, have been handled. That was an eye-opener for me because I knew of them. I've heard of my mother mentioning names like Laughing Water and things like that when I was young. But I didn't know too much about them. And I really felt this was educative for me in the sense that after so many decades, he talks about after 5 centuries after Columbus comes in, they're still having problems holding on to anything that actually the whole thing belonged to them, and then they gave it all away. And apart from Suresh's poster, which I thought summed it up, I'm going to read out a very small section which Thomas has a discussion with one of the immigrants who have come in and virtually have taken over, and I feel he sums it up. So he says here that lots of people here thought the same as you. We realized that we've been holding out for 5 centuries. Holding out in every kind of business you folks could throw our way. Holding out, why? Because we just can't turn into regular Americans. We can look it sometimes, act like it sometimes, but inside we are not. We are Indians. So then Barnes replies, I'm German, Norwegian, Irish, English, but overall I'm American. So what's so different? And that's when Thomas says, the difference is that we are from here. Think about this. If we Indians had picked you up, gone over there, killed most of you, and took over your land, what about that? Say you had a big farm in England. We camped there, then we kick you off. And then we say that we don't care. Since you made it through that mess, we say you can keep a little scrap of your land. You can live here, you can take our language, you can act like us. Then after some time, you want to take away that land too. So for me, that sums up the what would I call it, the big pain body in the book, which they're trying to express and tell us about. And then I read up a little bit about the author today, and I realized that she's also herself an Indian American, and also that this is the story of her grandfather who was a night watchman.
Yeah.
So these are the points that I want to contribute. Over to the next person.
Okay, can I go next?
Yes.
Unless if someone wants to leave. Malvika is back. Do you want to go next,
no, I
Malvika?
haven't read the book, so I just listened to the conversations. Thank you.
Okay. So just sum it up, there's this conflict between Arthur Watkins, who is a Mormon senator, and the Chippewa Turtle Mountain Band of Indians. Now, Arthur Watkins is a Mormon, and the Mormons have had a long history of kind of conflict with the Indians as they pushed westwards. And so they think that the Indians are Lamanites and that they're black. And that if they get converted to Mormonism, they will become light-skinned. That's the bizarre theory.
Yeah.
But Watkins is a real actual figure. He's an actual person. Senator Watkins actually existed, and he's also a man of great rectitude. And Thomas at one point says he's dangerous because he's a man of principles. He believes that he's doing something right, and that's what makes him so dangerous. Watkins himself, his family had gotten an allotment, which is basically some Indian tribes were kicked off their land, and the European settlers went in and bought it for a very cheap price. So this is Watkins on one side, and on the other side is Thomas, who's Chippewa Indian Turtle Mountain Band, and he represents a bridge between his father's generation. The father actually hunted buffalo. They were nomads, but they were forced to settle down because they couldn't be granted enough land to sustain a nomadic lifestyle, and they had to learn to farm. So it's so difficult to learn to farm when they're given a land that can't even be cultivated, that's not fertile. So Thomas is the first person in his family to have been born on a reservation, but he goes to school to take the burden off of his family for feeding him. So he goes to boarding school where they teach him how to write in cursive writing, and they teach him, English, and he learns to, he becomes a man of letters. He actually continues in school. He says till he was 18, but he only finishes 8th grade. But he is self-read. He reads a lot. Whenever he can, he reads. And so he's also the night watchman of that factory, which actually existed. And Thomas himself is modeled after Patrick Gournaud, a real person who is the author's grandfather. And Patrick Gournaud was a night watchman, did have a battle with Senator Watkins, who was a real life person. And that resolution, by the way, did pass, except that it did not affect the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa Indians, but it terminated many other tribes. And the good news is that in the 60s and 70s, due to a lot of activism by many of the Indian tribes, they were granted vast acres of land, but not where they wanted. So they have land now in Oklahoma, Arizona, basically semi-arid desert, and that's where their reservations are. So there is some good news, but a lot of bad news there. And so Thomas is also a very mature person. He is connected to spirits. He's superstitious, but he is also very innocent and naive. He's called the altar boy in a couple of instances because he doesn't want to believe bad things of people, and he wants to go to the police when the one of the characters is in Minnesota and maybe kidnapped and held there. And so the mother of that person says, that's a betrayal. You can't think so well of white people. So Thomas is a naive person, and then when he sees figures from the cosmos descend, he thinks he sees Jesus Christ. And he says Jesus Christ was a good fellow. I mean, he seems to be a nice person. So, and it's interesting to note that most of these Indians have maintained their spiritual rituals, but they're also Catholic. And the French names are because they all came from the French Cree Indians, and they merged with the Michif Indians, because all their land was taken away. They're forced together into one particular reservation. But the French always viewed the Indians as their allies, unlike the British. So the French had, there was a French-Indian war where Washington cut his teeth as a military commander. And that was a war between the British settlers on one side, the 13 colonies, and the French and the Indians, who, as the British tried to push their way into the west, into the Ohio Valley. So that's why a lot of the names are French. It's because they came from Canada and from French Canada, basically, and they're Catholic. And so, so that's Thomas, a mature person who's able to take baby steps. He realizes immediately what that resolution means. It means the end of the tribe. So he writes a series of letters, very patiently to all the people whom he knows. And he kind of comes up with a strategy with his father, who's from the old time, and who they decide that they are of value to all the neighboring communities, not just because they're Indians. The government doesn't just have to protect them, but if they're terminated, people around them who are not Indians are going to lose money, and the government will have to spend more in case they lose their protected status. So that's the strategy, and it works. So there are several passages that are very poignant. Suresh also already mentioned the Hotchkiss rifle and the the flu epidemic and all that. But there's one more time when he's thrown to the ground and these ghostly figures descend from heaven, where he says, every time I'm thrown to the ground by the white man, when I try to follow their ways, I try to integrate, I try to work at a job, I try to earn money, but every time I'm thrown to the ground. And so, that's a very sad kind of way of looking at it. The heroine is Pixie Parento, or Patrice Parento. She is smart, she's ambitious, she wants to be a lawyer. She is both class valedictorian and the homecoming queen. So she's popular, and she's very careful about her emotional involvement with men. So, and amazingly enough, did anybody notice this strange fact of being an ox and always referred to in the feminine? I mean, that to me was the original oxymoron, because it's just very odd that even the author doesn't really comment on it. But I mean, it's legend, of course, Paul Bunyan and all that, but it's a very strange kind of fact. So Patrice is capable of, suddenly becoming a lumberjack. So she's an all-rounder, quite an amazing person. She can sleep with a hibernating bear. She can lay snares for rabbits, and she also is connected spiritually, just like her mother, to the spirit world. And all the other characters, I think, are there to just show the lifestyle. The alcoholism that's rampant even now on most reservations is embodied by her father, Patrice's father, Parento, and her mother, Zanat, was actually protected by the tribe, not allowed to go to school, so that she would continue to be an expert in traditional medicine. She doesn't know English. She has opposing thumbs. So she's, portrayed as this mysterious, powerful kind of shaman kind of a person. And she can shoot a bear. So those are all the this thing. And so we all think that shooting a bear is very unusual, but Patrice again makes a statement that when they went to Washington, she says, it's amazing that the only time I've seen a gun shot at another person is in the midst of a civilized city, whereas everyone thinks that it's the reservations that are savage. And a couple of times, I don't know if you all noticed, but there's a very sly wit that the author has. The person who fixes cars, his name is Lemon. But usually, if in the US, if you say you were sold a lemon, you're sold a car that is, in terrible shape, you were conned. Yeah. And then there's also, in the boxing match, he wins at the end. There's no clear winner. So Wood Mountain wins by points, but at that point there was no point in winning. So things like that. She is quite witty, and so Vera, the sister of Patrice, exists to showcase the terrible exploitation of Indian women, well documented, but it was very bad. And so the ships in the Mississippi at that point is very close to Lake Superior. It's just a few miles away, and such things. That character exists just to show that the way Indian women were
Please,
exploited.
can we have silence?
I think
And so the ghosts, I think the ghosts were a good idea. It's a trope that she uses. Roderick is a ghost, but Roderick serves to highlight the guilt that Thomas feels because he didn't help someone in boarding school. And towards the end, again, Roderick just stays in Washington because there are so many Indian ghosts there. And so it's again another kind of a backhanded witticism that she employs. So the ghosts are a convenient way to bring in the context, the background, and they help. The one thing I didn't like was, I thought was unnecessary, was the Parento ghost, when he leaves the body trying to drag Pixie along. But everywhere else, I thought the ghosts and the supernatural element actually aided in the storyline. And Wood Mountain represents the young generation, but they don't want to leave the reservation. He clearly wants to just box. He wants to race horses, both raise and raise them. And finally, he ends up getting a good job, a federal job as a bus driver. So it just shows that the bar is not set very high. It's only somebody like Pixie, or Millie, who's not even raised on the reservation, who doesn't even recognize her Indian roots. Only they have actually managed to, think past a life on the reservation. So I think, that's all I have. I don't know if anybody else has any.
I'll go.
Yeah.
Shall I
Yeah,
go?
please do.
Yeah.
Please.
I'll go. Can I go? Hello?
Yes, please go. Please go
Okay.
ahead.
So I just want to say a big thank you to Devika and Ramesan. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have read the book. But they did encourage us by saying it was such a wonderful read. And Ramesan sent me a note saying it was one of his best reads that he's done. So I actually started, and it was a wonderful read. I really enjoyed the whole book. And I just felt that she's a Pulitzer Prize winner, so she's written so many books, but she's an amazingly talented writer because she brought into the story that almost everything of human emotion, of there was a lot of information of history of the Indian territory. I learned so much. And there was also a lot of thrillers. I mean, there was a very thrilling part of the story, which I couldn't put down sometimes. The trip to when the women went to, when Veera was taken away and Pixie went after her. And it was a very thrilling story, actually. So everything was so mixed in the book, but it was so total in the end that I really felt that I had the satisfaction of reading a very good book. And two things that I found very original was page 369 when she said there was the chapter is called Prayer for 1954, because it was very original. She wrote a sentence about most of her characters, and through the sentence, knew exactly whom they were. So she wrote that very cleverly. And then also there was another part that I really enjoyed was the way she described expectation and disappointment. In that one part when Millie thought that she was getting very close to Pixie, the moment Pixie said she didn't have a boyfriend, and then Pixie turns around and tells her that, yeah, I would love you to be my sister. So, and she wrote, she was both, and her feelings ran on the way in the silence. Companionable though it was, she felt unsettled and was left wanting by what Patrice had offered. It was as if a marvelous design had flashed before her and disintegrated before she could grasp the figures it conveyed. So I thought, I mean, these were things that were so original in many ways. And and I love the mystic dog. He could sense that Pixie was psychic. And the other thing I also enjoyed, I mean, some of her phrases were beautiful, like the grass rippled and bellowed like a green robe. She had a lot of these in them. So altogether, I just found that it was a very whole book. It was not lacking in very much. And it was very informative, that we really learned about the reservation and the termination of the Indians and everything. It was also a thriller story. And then there was a lot of the ghosts and so much more entertainment in the book also. So I just have to say thank you to both of you for making me read this book. Okay, thanks. Okay, I'm done.
Can I go next or
Yeah.
anybody else?
Go ahead.
Hello. Hi.
Go.
Yeah. Okay.
Before Chandra starts, quick sentence, please.
Yeah,
That please
yeah.
can we have silence? If you heard me say it was not meant for you. I'm babysitting two teenagers who were making more noise than they should when I requested it. So please don't, it was a rude comment to any of you. Sorry, Chandra, back to you.
Yeah.
See, again, me, it was one of the best novels I've read recently.
Yeah.
Erdrich takes the reader through her many characters, ghosts included, the untranslated Chippewa words takes us into the Turtle Mountain Reserve. I lived with them every moment. I lived with them there with their poverty, their land, their ghosts, their ancient myths, their belief systems, their love, their misfortunes, to put it very mildly, Roderick, Vera, their dreams, their fears, all written with clarity, simplicity, and honesty. I always believe that a best author is a person who can put things honestly. We all hide. When I start writing, I think that I should write, I put one line, there'll be 10 lies in that one sentence. But she is so honest. We feel that it comes from her heart. When she wrote it, it was planned novel, if it was a planned, plotted out novel, she's definitely a master craftswoman.
Yeah.
Nobody can do like that. But if it flowed straight from her heart, because I've heard that there are people who write like that, she is indeed gifted. I started the book in a half-hearted manner, truthfully. Too small prints, my eyes are not so good. Do I have to read this? I started it and then I read it ravenously, really. It was like every day, 120 pages, 100 pages. It was like that, However, I have to say 2 or 3 points. One was 2 boring sections. I found it boring. One was the homecoming, that parade, which she mentions.
Yeah.
I found it a little boring. Then also the boxing. So I skipped a little bit in the middle and then went to the rest of it. But I found the relationship between Wood Mountain and Pixie written so well and so surprising, and not yet not surprising when he says he will be with Vera and not Pixie. You know?
Yeah,
It was such a beautiful novel. I enjoyed it, and whoever suggested it, kudos to them, because it is a
Devika.
fantastic. Devika, thanks,
Devika.
really thanks. And then Patrice's experience where when she goes into the city, you know, which city does she go? Now I forget.
In Minneapolis.
Minneapolis, yes,
Minneapolis.
Minneapolis. I don't know whether somebody mentioned that. Is it possible? Was it too cruel? Was it? I don't know about that, but it is quite possible. And even Vera's experiences in the ship, it's possible. I've heard horror stories in various newspapers in various parts of the world. So I think this was that's why I said she was very, very honest. I think that's all done.
Chandra, just a point. I was only motivating. Yeah. I didn't choose the book. I don't know who, Suresh, who nominated this book? I mean, who suggested this book?
No, Devika, you suggested it. A friend of yours told you.
Oh, is it so?
I don't know whether I suggested. I don't know.
Okay.
Whoever, it was the best.
I have a question. The one thing that didn't work for me was the fact that Vera, that army man who picked her up from the gutter.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I thought he was so kind. I thought she'd stay with him and bring the baby and they would all live happily ever after.
That would have become a
I felt as if he was left without, the gratitude level in her, for her, I mean, towards him wasn't fully expressed. I don't know.
Actually, I never thought she had both of them would get married. I never thought Vera and he would get married. That was a surprise.
They got, if they had got married, it would have become a mundane novel.
No,
that goes up,
Yeah.
That the child's love for that boy, that Wood Mountain. It is that really just captures. Superb, very well written novel, superb novel.
But just a point though, so the author wrote the novel based on the letters that her grandfather had written to her children. So if you read the last part at the end, the afterword, that's where she says,
yeah, afterwards.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's real. And the boxing matches in particular she mentions, because I too was surprised the level of detail about boxing, but she says it really happened. That's how they collected money, because there was a trip to Washington by her grandfather. So the narrative is woven around many of these truths, and two figures are at least, Patrick Gourneau is Thomas, and Watkins is an actual real figure. So yeah.
Malvika, I see you coming and going. Are you going next? I see your video on and off.
I think she mentioned that she's not.
I just saw her.
She didn't read the book.
Oh, I thought she said. I thought somebody said she was going to speak. Sorry, my fault.
Okay, I'll talk.
Yeah.
I found it a very humane story. I loved the whole structure of it and the way that it wove in all the aspects of the community and how they were a community and lived and helped each other. I thought, the way she expressed that part of the family aspect, very, very moving. And the exploitation of the girl is when Pixie goes off to Minnesota looking for Vera was so well done. I mean, just the way that she was picked up at the station and as a gullible young girl gets into a taxi because somebody offers her a ride without thinking that harm would come to her. And then, of course, she's used as this little dancing girl in a mermaid in a tank. But how she used that to her advantage and then managed to escape was also indicative of Pixie's wiles and ability to think on her feet. I found Vera's relationship a little bit undone. I didn't feel that was fully expressed or detailed enough. to understand why she went, what happened to her, unless I missed it, because I was reading on Kindle, and many a time you stop somewhere and then go back and then feel, oh, I've missed something. So I tried to go back and pick it up, but I'm never very successful at that. But for me, the most satisfying thing at the end was that Watkins, the congressman, the one good thing that he did was end in the afterward, where they say what happened and how the story came about, that he was the one that put an end to McCarthyism. So he went up in my esteem there. That despite the fact that he thought he was doing good, but they did say he was a racist, and obviously didn't have much respect for the Indian. And I could imagine, in Congress, that they're always just looking for ways to exploit the downtrodden, as we find, the world over, indicative of what's happening in our eastern borders at the moment. And I just found it a very absorbing story and enjoyed it enormously. So well constructed and very well written. Obviously, she's the Pulitzer Prize winner. And thank you. I just loved it. That's my lot.
Who's going next?
You can.
Latika, did you say you are?
Yeah.
Can I say just a few words on Justice Jayachandran? Yeah. So the novel itself, I think it was more on a true story or true happenings. Some of those, as it was mentioned by Ramesh, the letters written by the grandfather. So in fact, I had been to a couple of these reserves in South Dakota when I'd been to the United States on some human rights mission. We also met a judge called Patrick Lee. They have the local courts which are dealing with issues relating to the customs and usages and some civil disputes of these people. It was quite pathetic even at that time in 1996 when I'd been there. Most of these people, the Native Americans, they were unemployed. They were into drugs. They were really in a very bad state. And even then, the federal government was whatever the money that was being spent on them was being reduced. I was thinking of reducing it. So recently, I had in fact had a talk with Sadhguru. He had a trip, on a motorcycle to many of these places of Native Americans. I think a lot of this, what was said in the novel, is true. In fact, many more things that happened. We had been to South Dakota, where so many of them were butchered, literally, of disease and poverty. There were more than 500 tribes of Native Americans spreading out into Mexico and other places. I think the novel really brought out the essence of at least some of what happened to them. I think it was, my opinion, it was a very well written book, which was very true and honest to realities. Yeah, that's what I observed. Yeah, thank you.
Latika wanted to go.
Okay, I echo what everybody else has said about the book. Of course, I was listening to Louise Erdrich speak just before coming on. And yes, it's like she said about her grandfather's letters, etc. So, and she explained about how she arrived at the names, etc. But okay, that's the true part of the story, and woven around it is pure fiction, that of Patrice or Pixie. But leaving the true side of the tale, which everybody got caught up in, and definitely it brought them together and they worked together to do something about it, go as a delegation ultimately to Washington. Apart from that, if you go to the other side of the story, the part that we don't really read a lot about, but what we see partially through Pixie's eyes is what happened to Vera. Now, the point is the relocation office should have actually checked up what happened to her and her husband when they went off to Minneapolis, but they did not. And just yesterday in the newspaper, there was this information about, again, about missing Indian women in California. So it's nothing new. The fact that the women are sort of pulled off. I mean, this is what happens in every single country in the world. A young girl goes into the city and you will have the pimps or others who go pick up these girls, promise them jobs, promise them anything else, take them off and then push them into a life of prostitution. One thing worse than the other. And what Vera endured right on the hold and in the house is what so many women throughout the world do endure. And I think that's really very, very sad. But, you know, a lot of it happens because they're so horribly poor, or they're desirous of going to the city. And when you go to the city without knowing anybody there, this is something which happens. Or alternately, you do know somebody there, probably like Bernadette Blue, and she introduces you into prostitution also. I mean, these are things that do happen. This is the horrible side of life. It's existing everywhere. But for me, one of the things that is sad is you can actually see what it means in the white world, that if you're not a white person, if you're a person of color, then you're almost subhuman. I mean, look at the reservation. I didn't know it was as awful as it was till I read this book, that they really live on the edge. I mean, would you say Juggy Blue says this, what else do you want, us living on the edge of a handkerchief? Done. Dying out as quickly as possible? Done. Dying out with agreeable smiles? Check. Brave smiles? Check. Pledge to your flag? Check, check, check. Done. I mean, this is the horrible part of their lives, and we've got it every single place. I mean, it's an eye-opener in many ways, but I just hope something like Trump doesn't come along and make their lives more miserable. He tried doing the same termination bid also. And like Thomas says, it's not termination, it's virtually extermination.
Yeah.
That apart, for me, the most unforgettable character was the mother, Janet. I just felt that she was so, you know, she is reminiscent of a kind of person who accepts what comes her way and then just carries on with life. I mean, carries on doing what she's supposed to do. And somewhere in me, there is this hope that Erdrich will write a sequel to this book, which will talk about Millie Cloud's, what she does, because she has said that she's going to use Janet for the, you know, to get her all the information about the old Indian ways, etc. And what happens to Pixie or Patrice if she is going to become a lawyer. That would definitely be very, very interesting. There's a lot about the book which is really, really very nice. The bad part is also there, but that doesn't really matter because we have to be open to it. And what happened to Vera, whoever said this, it's every bit as horrible every single place. You've got to see it to believe it, but that's it. That's the thing. I think this book is really good. So thanks again, Devika.
Would I go next if nobody else is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just finished. So I just finished, means like Devika about 15 minutes before. So I don't have anything anything written, and I started reading it long ago. I can't remember lots of it as well as I should. So it's going to be a bit of free expression, and I think all were fantastic reviews that each one has said. I'll try not to step on those toes. When I first read the book, I remember calling Devika and say, should I really go through with this book? This looks like it's going to be a tedious run. And she said, you have to. Thank you, Devika. And then I started reading and I knew exactly what she meant. And the feeling I got was, how would you feel if the ground is being swept away from under your feet, literally and figuratively? When everything that you've stood for in body, mind, spirit, in lineage is going, I'm sorry, not audible?
We can hear you.
Okay.
Fine.
Yeah. So in every which way, your individuality is being stolen from you. To a certain extent, I relate to it today because we are in an impersonal world where everything is online and our name is a long card or an Aadhaar card, a long number on an Aadhaar card, sorry. So it is a stealing of individuality. It is a stealing of the past. It is the threat of a very ominous future. So the background is just that, and that is a very threatening undercurrent throughout the book. I keep thinking of it as a play because I started visualizing it as a play. It's also the contrast between a community which belonged to the old world and this new, if I may say, white trash that has come and taken over the new world. It's a community of innocence, of sharing and caring, respect to elders, respect to environment,
nature.
keeping the balance, ancestral homage. And some days ago, I had posted Chief Seattle's speech. I know one or two read it, but maybe it skipped your notice. Please go back and read it again. It really talks about this. This is what they were. Their ancestors lived with them. The dead were living with them, and they lived in harmony. In fact, harmony was the motto of their life, as we see it in this book. I don't know history well enough to say anything more on it. And the boxing match, I think I loved it. I loved the details. Because why? I know zilch about boxing, but at the end of it, yes, the white man cheated on 2 occasions or something, but the final one, the big fight, was when they realized that the violence wasn't worth it. And that touched my heart because this is their feeling. Violence is not part of this world. And that's exactly what they had done, and they never fought again. Another thing I liked about it was that each chapter, the very short chapters, which pleased me a lot,
Correct.
is like a slice of life, a little vignette of life. So one chapter is about a little tussle between, I'm not going to mention the names because it's really not worth it for those who haven't read, but 2 guys. And one, of course, is the night watchman. And in the end, the night watchman gets the other guy's lunchbox, which is a big, big deal where food is scarce and poverty is real. So he gets a lunchbox, and the person who sort of lost in the argument gets a little piece of candy. There's yet another chapter where 2 people are making love in the backseat of a car, and suddenly the man slides off the woman out of the door. And the lady thinks that the door opened by mistake. But outside, there is a Mormon standing there and saying something about, I don't know what conversion. So they're little chapters, they're hilarious, they're touching, they're moving, they're sad, they show close family life, it shows affection. It shows the West in people when it comes to the Indians. We've said enough about the whites. I'm not going to talk about them. The clash of civilizations is just too apparent throughout the book. Next thing is the spirit world, which I won't dwell on, but the spirit world is very much their world. It guides them, motivates them, talks humorously to them, advises them. And It's remarkable. I don't think I'd be scared of ghosts anymore. The language. The language is fantastic. There is not one single word that you don't know. It is everyday common speech. And it's so perfect because it suits the simple Indian community until they go for the hearing. And the whole style of writing completely changes to a formalized legal way of talking. Fantastic contrast, brilliant use of language everywhere without using metaphors and similes and all, which are the mark of great literature. The author brings in comparisons or not even a symbiosis with nature. Everything is nature related. And this is so true in the language. Please just pick up the book, open a page and read a few paragraphs to understand what I'm saying, even if you don't want to read the book. Then there's as somebody mentioned, the acceptance of these people, not like us getting high blood pressure and going on tablets, because there is this wonderful smoothness. This is life. This is how it is. I'm going to read a small paragraph. Patrice Pixie's father, whom she didn't like in the first place, is dead. It was hard to leave for work the next morning. As she walked out of the house, Patrice glanced into the lean-to. Her father's corpse was still there, wrapped in a blanket on the cot where he used to sleep off his alcoholic binges, which should make her sad, Patrice thought. But she wasn't sad. She was just glad he hadn't come back to life, which did make her sad. How sad it was not to be sad. See, this is a sweetness about it. I love the language. The characters, enough has been said, but I'm just going to end on saying Patrice is in the hearing where the treaty goes in favor of the Turtle Mountain Indians, but that's not the part that I'm going to stress on. The part is that she's sitting next to a Puerto Rican woman who has a gun in her hand, which she shoots. And there's another guy who actually injures people with a gun. And instead of being horrified, Patrice, her senses come alive. Okay, and her thoughts after that dwell on this woman because there is this strong woman who's asking for what she wants and getting it her way. There's no right or wrong about it. So now I'm left wondering what is going to happen to Patrice on her future journey, which is an intriguing thought to break off the book and to break off my review.
Just one point to add to your boxing. You know, Jaggi, the mother of Wood Mountain, there's a very poignant passage where she bemoans the fact that this perfect human being she brought into the world has now a broken nose and an injured face. And she says, for some time he was handsome, but now, you know, he's not, and all for some stupid fight. So, you know, there's that feeling of tremendous loss. So boxing, you know, and it's also strange that a math teacher would be so interested in boxing. I never thought math and boxing would go together. So it's difficult for them. I mean, they're not able to think of any other way. And in fact, there's another place where I think Pokey, the younger one, says, you know, Patrice has a real job, not just picking berries or, you know, he can't even come up with actual jobs that people have. So it illustrates what little options they have and how happy they are just to, you know, even get this kind of a job which pays a pittance per hour and there's no even opportunity for advancement, but still they're happy with that. And Thomas and actually Patrick Gourdneau really was instrumental in getting that factory close to the reservation. So it's a difficult problem to solve. But apart from Patrice, I don't know what people think the future of these tribes will be. I mean, they do have millions of acres of land and they have casinos on them. But how are they going to manage is a difficult question, because even in whatever problems existed in 1954, they still exist, even though they have gotten a lot of land. And so they will eventually lose their identity. And I don't know if there's a way for them to keep both. But one more point, if you read all these, read about these families, Zanath doesn't know English, Bibun doesn't know English, but then Thomas knows both English and Chippewa, and then Patrice and Wood Mountain are really more comfortable with English than even Chippewa. So this mirrors that of an immigrant family. You know, any
Yes.
immigrant family in the US, you would see that. But then the irony is these people are not the immigrants, they are the original inhabitants. And so this kind of transition, you know, the Indians will also have to do it, but many immigrant families also will go through this as the generations progress. So it's an interesting kind of to speculate on how things will turn out. Yeah.
Can I
Don't
ask
you-
one question? Can I ask just one question? Would you say that the blacks have lost their identity by merging with the American people? Can someone answer that for me?
I mean, I think the
No,
blacks
let me,
came
I
from
have,
so-
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, continue, Ramesh. I'll talk to you.
No,
Continue.
yeah. So they came from many different places. So their loss was when they were actually kidnapped from Africa and brought to a new land, and then so they forged another identity for themselves where they've forgotten their origins, and they've merged with one another and merged with the white population. There's nobody who's really totally black anymore. So their identity is now unique within America. They see themselves as black, and it's from Obama's experience, you can see that there is a black identity, that it is uniform, and they are asserting themselves more, and they're just more in number, whereas the Indians are basically dying out, and they never were part of the mainstream. In some ways, you would even think that the reservations have hurt. We wouldn't advocate an abrupt relocation, but many of them don't attempt to get off the reservation at all. And I have no idea how to predict what will happen, but I don't think the future bodes well for them.
What I was thinking, also, thank you, Ramesh. Just what I was thinking is just a point. I have worked with Palestinians. And I felt that, see, they were almost in a similar place. At least that's what they told us. They had their land. The Jews came in and they just bought it off them. Okay. They just slowly, they took over their land. And now they are in certain ghettos. Rather, they call that ghettos. And they used to always tell me that, why are you coming from a country which is your own? What are you getting here? Look at us. We have no country. We have only a travel paper. Now, they went the way of violence. I don't know. I sometimes feel this is the way human beings have gone throughout history. We see merging, we see migrations, we see one powerful nation taking over, a group of people taking over not so powerful group of people. Maybe this is how history works. So perhaps by hiding yourself in your old traditions may not be the right way. I'm not sure. This is what I was wondering, Ramesh, when you were talking, I feel.
They were hoping
it is hard. Yeah.
No, were
Go
they
ahead, go
hoping
ahead.
for the emancipation of the black? I mean, they're calling it emancipation once they come out of their own and merge with the rest.
So, I mean, in the case of Black Americans, the Emancipation Declaration was, in the late 19th century, and they were already there. I mean, in the sense they were already they were enslaved, and then they were just set free. I don't know. I don't think the blacks are losing their identity. I think they're actually asserting their identity. There's something called Project 1619, and all that. They're trying to raise awareness of the fact that Black Americans have been wrong. They've contributed a lot to American society, and they're just more in number, and they're already a more affluent group, a more diverse group, which you don't see with the Red Indians. They just died out by the millions. There's just not enough of them to be able to assert this kind of identity. They've won some reparations, and they've got these reservation land, but what they've not been very successful in capitalizing on it, and they're still on the brink. I don't think they will be able to maintain their identity. Yeah.
Can I say something, please?
Yeah.
Thank
Please,
you.
please.
Thank you.
I draw a similarity to this whole community with the Australian Aboriginal. Now, the Australians, the successive, obviously, white governments have dominated and massacred and done all these things. But in the last century, when things are improving, I don't see Aboriginals making any effort to improve their lifestyle. They get a lot of concessions. They come into the cities. I know, I've lived in Australia half my life. They demand that their ancestors' bones are buried in a certain area, right in the middle of Sydney. And there's a stay order. It's a heritage building. And they bring it down because they say the British built it. The Aussies have nothing to do with it. And they'll dig it for about a decade, and they're still digging. They can't find any bones. And then they put a camp there. They have a camp in Canberra, and they won't, like our farmers, they've been there for the last decade. Nobody talks about this, and nothing happens. The whites won't give them, and these guys won't work towards it. And I find it that the American Indian, however backward he might be, he's much more progressive than the Aussie counterpart. Nobody is coming forward to overtly help these people. These people don't want to improve. They live in ghettos. And Latika, you've seen them. They live in fourth world conditions today. The 20, 30 people are living, children don't wear clothes, and they get lots of money, grants, they get land, they just can't move, they can't hang on to any jobs. You question them, they say, oh, our forefathers were made to drink and make them a little unsteady, and the white man is to shoot at us. You can't say such things now in the 21st century about things. Come on, in India, the white man used to shoot us barely a century ago. Now we are okay. We are a very progressive society, despite our differences. And I can't see the Australian Aboriginal, I've not read many Aboriginal fiction or whatever, but these people, they can't write a progressive book like this, which will appeal to all sorts of people, white, colored, whatever. So I don't know. So you can't equate them. You can't equate the Australian Aboriginal to the American Aboriginal, because that's what the Americans say. In official language, the American Indians are known as Aboriginal. Anyone who's the original person. So I wish they write a novel. I mean, somebody should write a novel. An Australian should come up, preferably a original Australian should write a book. And I can't see that happen at all.
Anand, there are books.
There are books, of course.
There are books. But I'll ask you a question. I'm not talking just Australia or anywhere. Any place, if you remove the people from where they are, relocate them in something which is alien to them, and you take away their language, you take away so many of their things, you take everything away, you ruin the setup for 1 or 2 generations or 3, and then you say, oh, it's back to reservation and, reserved. Some of our scheduled tribes go into that. You start giving money. You've made them into zombies, and then you're going to say, no, you've got to get up and do something with your lives. Come on, be realistic. You turn them into zombies. That's why they're glue sniffing. That's why they're doing nothing useful. I mean, Ramesh, and I'm coming to this thing. Yes, when I did a course in this place in Australia, we did go out into the areas where the Aborigines are, and we did interact with a lot of them, etc. There are a lot of what you call half-bloods or quarter-bloods or 1/8 blood. Now, those are the guys who are picking up and saying, we want to know about our heritage. We want to know what has been lost to us. And I think this is where the hope lies for people, even for the Native Americans. A person like Louise Erdrich definitely is going to make a big difference to them, because their stories are going to come out. And maybe in time, there will be something that happens where they also start, they improve their status in life and become better. I mean, have a better way of life.
Yes. So one country
Yeah. Now, just one question, Latika. Is that do you mean to say that when you say that they will improve their themselves, will they merge with the rest of the society, or would they prefer to stay in isolation?
No, whatever it is, see, it is, what are you talking about their improvement? It is, let them be, let them have something where they earn their own living, where they have self-respect. Because after all, what did we take away from people? Their self-respect. It's happening everywhere. I mean, I worked with it all through. That's why I feel a bit pissed off about the whole thing, because we took away self-respect. When you take away self-respect, believe me, the guy is just standing there. It's just like seeing somebody in a police station who is standing with nothing on but his underwear. It's just that you've taken away his dignity, you've taken away everything. And then you say, come on, be a dignified person. Why ever not? And I'm not saying that you have to learn the language of the day. Yes, English has become the global village spoken language. So yeah, that's why people are speaking English. But it's about the education part. Learn what your own values are. I mean, for the, I don't know about the American Indians, but for the Aboriginals, what was the Australian Aboriginals, what was so important were their trees. That was their dreamland, dream time. And what did the guy coming in do? They cut down the trees. And when they cut down the trees for these people, it's like chopping off their heads.
Yeah.
That's what's happened.
But in New Zealand, the Maoris have integrated much better with the white settlers. So if you go to New Zealand, people will tell you that everyone in New Zealand is at least 15% Maori, and they are, there's not that much friction between the two ethnic groups. And there wasn't even historically, of course, there were cases, but by and large, they've managed that much better. And to Anand's point, the Aboriginals, the Australian government in the 1960s and 70s tried this program where they literally kidnapped children, Aboriginal children, and placed them with white adoptive parents, and they called the Lost Generation. And this was an attempt to force people to integrate. Now, Louise Erdrich herself is not fully Chippewa. She's probably 1/4. So again, I think as
her mother is French. Her mother is French Chippewa, and her father is German. I mean, as you say, it's watered down in her case.
Yeah. So people have to learn to be bicultural. I mean, that's the only possibility. They cannot just stay on the reservation all the time. And really, even if you take ethnic groups that have migrated, even if you take the Indian community, it's because the Indian community is so wealthy that we are able to build our temples and try to maintain a semblance of our culture. And we are happy doing it. But the integration is happening. I mean, there are changes across the generations, but it's gradual and there won't be any bitterness, hopefully. But that's because we are able to take the effort to do it. We have the means, we have the agency to do it. Whereas this agency was taken away very abruptly and forcefully from these communities, from the Indians. So that anger and bitterness is there, and they're not able to get past that. And there were so many of them, there were actually 113 tribes were terminated, and somebody said there were actually 500 original tribes. And it wasn't that they lived in some idyllic land before the white European settlers came. They had a lot of wars amongst themselves. They were quite savage in many ways. The only thing is they didn't believe in land ownership. Everything was communal ownership. So that just didn't work with the white settlers and the idea of manifest destiny and things like that. So so the idea of being gradually integrating is important, not suddenly being asked to integrate or suddenly being forced into poverty. That's what is the problem in these cases.
That was interesting, the whole discussion.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Superb. Thank you so much.
And Ramesh, so much of information. Thank you so much.
Yes,
Thank you so much.
All, even Latika, everyone.
I love Latika's. It is
wonderful.
very,
Actually, I just want to tell Suresh, you were saying you're going to have an author. Now, see, we don't know. I mean, like today when we came, we had no idea how the discussion will go. It's 5:15. You really can't. I mean, you tell an author, prepare. We're going to have a discussion on you today, you know, and then it goes on to 5:15. Sometimes you'll find that there's just no discussion. So how will you work on that? I mean, I'm just giving you a thought to ponder on.
Agreed.
Why
We
don't
just have to take it as it goes.
One suggestion is, why don't you take another day to have the author? Once in a while.
In the sense, another author meeting?
Yes.
Yeah.
Once in a
Dedicated to
while.
That
authors.
means
It
we
doesn't
need at
have to
least
be
3
every
authors,
month,
no? It
but
doesn't really fill otherwise, a meeting. We need 3 people. I don't know if we have 3 authors pending who will agree to talk.
We'll wait. No, I'm sure there are so many already. I mean, like literally writing books. The way when people talk, I feel, oh gosh, if only he or she would write a book.
Or we tell the author point blank, you may be bumped into next month. Like you are bumped in when you go to a plane, which is overbooked.
If anybody left who has to talk about today's...
I can remember one. I want to force him to talk. Honestly, it is Sri Kumar.
Can I
And
add a
Vishwanath
couple of
Ghosh, I want to
sentences
talk to him
the book
later.
review?
Tell me.
Yeah, I think Anuradha wants to talk. Yeah.
No, you know, I have been mentally editing till finally what I had to say became just like 2-3 sentences because everybody has made the points which I would have also made. Now, what I want to say is, which I think all of you would have also gleaned from the book, look at their resilience. Look at the fact that they don't show any overt anger or deep resentment. They are inside, they are a very disappointed lot. And the maturity with which they lead their lives, the deep-rooted cultural values which they hold, all that is also very inspiring, you know, that in the face of such crushing adversity, they are able to keep that all alive also.
Yeah, that's right.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
there's a
Latika,
bit
did
of
you
a-
show
I'm going to go
something
in
on
early
the...
because it's horrifying to want to say so many things and then realize there is no need to say them.
Yeah,
Let's
sorry
go
about
watch-
that. Yeah, we should allow
Actually,
you to
what
go
I
first next.
showed you is
Yeah.
the tribal nations map. It's quite
Oh.
fascinating.
Can you just show us again?
Here's part of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You get it's on Google. You
Okay,
find.
yeah.
Okay.
No, we should
Very
we should read more about it, yeah.
It was very interesting because it was a subject we
very
didn't know
interesting.
much about.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't really think about the Indians and the Red Indians, really, that we call them. Yeah, so it was so truly very interesting. And
Yeah.
the fact that the story was such a thriller, we didn't stop reading, you know, we just went
Yeah.
on. It just flowed. And she's
Yeah.
such a brilliant writer. That's
She
what I
is,
can
she
say.
is.
It is really a brilliant
Actually, what I thought was very amusing is the remark that Eddie Mink makes in that council meeting. He says the services that the government provides to Indians might be likened to rent. Rent for the
Yes.
use of the entire
Very true.
country. The United
Yes.
States.
Yes.
That was very nice. I remember that.
Yes.
Very-
So much. You know, every page there was something to read
So
again. You know, it was
interesting, yeah.
a superb book. It was a superb. Whoever suggested it, Devika, if it's you, I don't know, whoever. Superb
No,
book.
originally, Devika, you suggested it, I remember.
Yeah.
So good of yours
I am
to-
so happy. I am
Yeah.
so happy. There's another one I'm reading now, which after I finish reading, I will. I don't know if you're supposed to come for the Jaipur Lit Fest. This is called The Island of the Missing Tree. It's a fig tree talking.
Wow.
I
Very
see.
nice. I will tell you more. It's a lady who wrote that 40 Rules of Love. You remember we did it long ago.
Elif Shafak.
That's
Elif Shafak.
the
So
Turkish author.
I will read it, and then because now I've decided any recommendation I really must have solid. So,
And I started reading this. Apparently, one of the books we should read of 2020s or something
Which
of that.
one is it,
Street Without a Name.
Okay.
It's not a novel. It's actually a travelogue. It's like William Dalrymple's original books about their personal experience and the travel. I'm started. It seems very interesting. Very, very
we
interesting.
have nice books to read this year.
What
We'll
is
be having
next?
our next election shortly.
Suresh,
Yeah,
what is
maybe
next month's book?
Yeah.
Suresh, what's next month's book?
Normal people.
Normal people.
Okay, good. Okay.
Now, next month's
Okay,
election, again, we'll need to plan within the next couple of weeks. I'll be coming out
Okay.
with the details.
Okay.
Because we have to
Okay.
select
All right.
the book for the next 2 months.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye,
It's a
bye,
lovely
bye, bye.
meeting. Bye, bye, bye.
Bye-bye. Nice seeing you
Bye.
all. Bye-bye.
Nice
Bye.
seeing everyone.
Bye.
Good.
No.
Bye, bye,
Bye.
bye, bye.
Bye.